Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast, where we talk about everything dog. Q&As with veterinarian professionals, rescue operators, everyday topics. We cover everything dog on this podcast. So make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media on both Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for listening. Now here's that next episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Canine Culture Podcast. This is your host, Brittany, and today we are joined by Daniel. He is a director at K9s For Warriors. So Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
So before we talk about Canines For Warriors, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, because you've been working with dogs for a while.
Yeah. So I actually first met Canines For Warriors while I was working at Animal Care and Protective Services in Duval County back in 2014. The team came there to evaluate some shelter dogs, and so it was a great insight into what this great organization does. I served the Navy for 8 years, so I have a really close tie to obviously the work we do for our veterans, and then I've been doing animal welfare for over 20 years now, working with rescues and shelters, and so it's just kind of a combination of all the things that I love and appreciate, and it's great to see, all this kind of come to either the veteran being saved by our service dogs, or for the dogs that decide that they want a different life,
right?
Helping them find that forever home.
Mm-hmm. So, and for anyone listening, tell us what Canines For Warriors does. And you guys do a lot. And so you do more than what I think a lot of people know or see on social media. So give us a little bit of that outline of like what you guys do.
Yeah. So Canines For Warriors was founded back in March of 2011 by Sherry Duval, a mother who was able to see the healing that a dog gave her son who was suffering from, the invisible wounds of war. This service dog was able to help him heal, provided him the comfort and the support that he needed to function in life. And so the idea of Canines For Warriors is saving 2 lives at the end of the leash. We have this really beautiful connection that happens between the dog and the warrior. We're able to go out to these shelters, to these rescues, and find dogs that are great candidates for service work through our evaluation process, bring them into our campus, do the training that they need to be successful as a service dog, and ultimately pair them with a veteran suffering from PTSD. The veteran comes to our campus. They stay on our campus for 3 weeks. They learn how to live with the service dog and how to function appropriately. But we're also given a little bit of something that you don't necessarily think about when you're being paired with a service dog. We're giving them that confidence to get back into life, to go to a grocery store, to, go to a football game, or to go watch a movie. And so that's the big part of what our mission is healing 2 lives, and helping these veterans get that second chance at life. In between that, we have a lot of resources for the dogs. Let's say they aren't successful in our program, and, we want to find that still continued best opportunity for them. We call it career change. They've decided that they're no longer service dog candidates, and so our adoption program helps place them in forever homes. Or first option is becoming a station dog. So we have our station dog program that was developed to help first responders, going out to local fire stations, working with the dispatch centers, working with Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and really we started working with Border Patrol and getting dogs out, helping these people that are on the front lines, helping them cope with their day. So the station dog program is almost an emotional support program that these dogs are able to help these folks deal with the everyday of their life. So that's a great opportunity for the dogs that can't really become service dogs. And then after that, we have a couple different options as well. We place dogs with search and rescue. Actually, one of the dogs today, Goose, who was trained to be a search and rescue dog, helped with that building that just had a collapse downtown. Goose was sent in on scene to basically look for any bodies. So it's different opportunities like that. It's station dog, it's, search and rescue, or it's, being a great adoption candidate.
And let's jump into some of those programs, because they all have such meaningful impact, and they're all kind of different. So let's talk first about a veteran. So let's say I'm a veteran and maybe I'm looking for a dog to deal with PTSD. And before I even talk about that, what kind of conditions can a veteran come to you for? Is it just PTSD, or could it also be a physical ailment? Could it be anything else that they might face? Is there like a criteria for a veteran?
Yeah, so PTSD is the majority diagnosis that's needed. We don't do mobility dogs, so we are very specific in what we're training our dogs for, and so that allows us to basically save more veterans. Because we kind of have a very standard protocol for our training. And so every veteran has some key components. Again, suffering from PTSD, military sexual trauma, traumatic brain injuries, all those are issues that we can help alleviate by providing them with the service dogs that we're training. If you really get to the point of starting to add additional things like mobility or, even just someone with the mobility issues, that's just going to be additional training that we aren't at a point where we can start basically implementing in our program. And we want to be able to help as many veterans as possible. We have 20 veterans committing suicide a day.
Oh, wow.
And so right now we're able to average about 16 veterans a month that we're able to pair. So we have up to 12 veterans that we pair here in our Florida campus and 4 in our Texas campus. And in order to continue to do that, we have to have a pretty streamlined training process. Our goal is to have a service dog trained between 8 to 10 months so that we can pair them and continue to pair warriors every month.
And so a veteran can submit an application. And then once they submit the application, what are the next steps? What else can they expect to happen in that process?
Well, submitting the application is actually one of the hardest things for a warrior. These veterans, they've gone through several different processes of trying to find something to help them heal. And a lot of times this is their last hope. So getting to that point of submitting the application, we already know is the hardest thing. So once they submit the application, we're calling the veterans, we're asking them questions, talking about their day-to-day life. What is their goal? What do they want from a service dog?
Right.
What's their family dynamic? What are they dealing with on a day-to-day basis so that we can kind of help cater to these dogs, to those warriors, and ensure that the service dogs that we're training are really going to help heal. So once they go through that process, we're asking the questions. We also have continued resources and education. So even if there is a wait time prior to their being paired with the warrior or being paired with a service dog, we're going to have continued education and continued conversations with the warrior, with their family, with anyone in their support system to ensure that everyone kind of has an idea of what's going on and what are the next steps. We want to prepare these folks for what it means to have a service dog.
Right.
It's a medical device, but it is a service dog. It is something that changes your life. And are you ready? And this is something you want to commit to. That's such a big key component to everything we do. Once that's done and they're actually given a date for their class, then it really gets down to the point of like, all right, this is when you're coming in. We typically have our warriors arrive on our campus on a Sunday. So Sunday, they all get to our campus. We obviously do like a quick little orientation, but let's just get them settled, get them relaxed, because they are going to be staying on our campus for 3 weeks. And then Monday, we start the education process. We do this big breakfast with all the warriors. We get to talk to them in person. It's questions we've already asked, but now we're asking them face to face and getting a lot more information about who they are and what they expect from this. And then that afternoon, our training team goes back and we play what's called this little dating game. We're looking at the dogs and we're looking at the warriors and we're matching. And we're making sure that we have the right pairing. And then that next day, they're meeting their service dog for the first time.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty detailed process. A lot of it is information gathering and really ensuring that we're setting the dogs up for success, but also the warriors up for success.
Is there a cost to the veterans who are participating?
So everything that we do is at no cost to the warrior. As a nonprofit, based on all the donors and everything that we're able to receive, we are able to provide every service dog and all the resources that we provide these veterans at no cost.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I feel like a lot of people, whether it's a mental block, an ego block, there might also just be financial, whether they know it or not. They just assume it's cost prohibitive. I'm not even going to bother, you know? So I think it's great for people to know that it's not cost prohibitive.
And a service dog is very expensive. I mean, you'll find anyone doing the research, you're looking at a $20,000-$40,000 cost.
Yeah.
And that's just to get the dog.
Right.
You know, there's the continued care of now having a service dog in your life. So there it is. I'm sure that's a huge relief for a lot of the folks that we are able to talk to and share to them that this is something we're able to do at no cost to you.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about the dogs that come into your program. So you guys pull them from animal control, from rescues, from shelters. So talk about what that process looks for and what you're looking for in a dog.
Yeah. So we go to shelters all over. We will travel hours. We obviously want to support our local shelters. But the biggest thing is building relationships with all these shelters and rescues. We've really amped up our program to where we've educated, we've done volunteer orientations, we've done staff orientations. We go out to these shelters and actually teach them kind of a preliminary evaluation. The goal is we are pulling candidates for service work.
Right.
We're not here to rescue dogs. We're not here to get dogs as pets. They are, expected to become service dogs. So there is obviously a criteria that we're looking for. The dogs we're looking for have to be a certain height. They have to basically pass certain behavioral screenings. So dog sociability, human sociability, so we do all this in our evaluation. But we set up a lot of preliminary things prior to even going to these shelters. We're talking to the staff, we're talking to volunteers, because as you know, if you've ever been to a shelter, the ones that know the dogs the best are typically the volunteers.
Always, yeah.
And no discredit to the staff.
Right. They're just too busy.
They're busy.
Yeah.
They're doing their job. So really finding out from these volunteers, you find out a lot more about these dogs. And so we're able to use that information to help in our evaluation process. So we could spend an entire day at a shelter, evaluate 20 dogs, get none. We could go out to a shelter, evaluate 5, and come back with 1. But we keep going. We average anywhere between 15 to 20 dogs a month from shelters.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing, especially right now. All of the shelters are full, packed at the brim, no more capacity. So that's just another way that you guys are helping in such a significant way and really giving these dogs a second chance at life, kind of like the veterans,
And one big thing that Canines For Warriors is very committed to, aside from pulling the dogs from the shelters, we want to continue those relationships and help empty some of the kennel space. So we host adoption events. So this past February, we actually hosted an adoption event where we had 5 different shelters participate at an adoption event in St. Augustine. And we did about 20 adoptions. So we're always going to partner with shelters and do small events every month, really trying to help them. And again, just continue to build those relationships.
Right. And then once you bring the dogs to your facility, do they start a specific regimen? Do they kind of start a routine, a training program? What does that look like?
So every dog that comes from a shelter will do a 10-day quarantine period. Obviously, we want to ensure that anything that we, do bring in, we're going to prevent any possibility of something coming in like an upper respiratory infection. So they go through a 10-day quarantine process. But what's unique about our quarantine process is we have what's called intake trainers. Those trainers are there for those first 10 to 15 days of building relationships, building confidence, doing anything that they can to help basically prepare them for that next step of going into the service dog training world. So confidence building, really number one thing from a shelter dog is they got to be able to trust.
Right.
They got to be able to be confident in a kennel environment. So that's so important in those first 10 to 15 days. And then once they're cleared of that, we're doing hip evaluations. We're doing spay and neuters if they're not already. And then we're transitioning them over to the service dog training side. And that's where, there's a bonding, there's a commitment to making sure that the dog's confident and comfortable. We start building all the basic obedience stuff. So your sits, your downs.
Right.
And at a certain point, typically around 10 to 12 weeks is when we start really going and doing the public access portion of our training. It's one thing to do a sit, or it's one thing to give you a down or walk well on leash, but it's another to do those in a crazy public access like Walmart
Right.
during high peak hours, and you've got tons of people walking down the aisles, and these dogs need to be able to do the job regardless of where they're at. So that's where we really start seeing the difference of whether or not they're ready to become service dogs.
How long is that training, the service dog training?
Anywhere between 6 to 8 months. We average 8 to 10 months for some of our shelter dogs, just because of, again, time and training and needing to really get past some of the behavioral issues that we may see. So if a dog comes in and they're shy, fearful, we'll do a specific behavior plan to get them past that shy, fearful stage, so that we can continue their success. So if we see something we call it an unwanted behavior, we're going to work through those unwanted behaviors before we really start pushing them to the final stages of service dog training.
Right.
The big key is always that final skills test, and testing them on all the skills in a high public access environment, and they need to be able to perform, just to the greatest extent possible.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's say one of the dogs needs a career change.
Yeah.
The service stuff isn't for him or her. How do you guys normally figure that out? Or what signs are there to kind of let you know, like, not a service dog, great adoptable dog, but not service?
It's typically the public access.
Okay.
We've done a lot of different, I love numbers. And so I run a lot of reports, and I look at why dogs are career changed. We have a high career change rate for dogs that fell hips. So, we typically find that within the first 10 days of the quarantine period, if they fell hips. So we have high hip failure or just medical issues. Dogs that have skin allergies or even just allergies in general. We don't want to obviously have a service dog with any kind of allergies or food sensitivity. So the medical stuff we typically find out, but where we really see is doing public access, having a dog being able to be confident and comfortable walking past sliding doors, going and walking down, an aisle, going to a movie, and being able to sit for 2 hours and just be confident, comfortable, relaxed, laying there. And let's say it's a, World War II movie, right? Like they need to be able to sit through that and be fine. Their job is to be there for the veteran.
Right.
And if that veteran starts experiencing any episodes of anxiety or stress, the dog needs to be alert and ready to provide that service to that warrior to get him through that moment in that situation. So if the dog's stressed and if the dog's anxious, it's not going to be able to perform.
Right.
So that's where we typically see all right, this dog's going to be a great pet, which again, not a bad thing.
Right.
Just not a service dog.
And those adoptable dogs, do you guys show those at events? Or if someone were interested in one of the dogs that had a career change, how would someone go about adopting?
So we use Adopt-A-Pet. We post all of our dogs on Adopt-A-Pet. We typically do at least one adoption event a month. So this Saturday, we're actually going to be at 2 locations. We are partnering with Nassau County Humane Society at an adoption event that they're doing. And we're also going to be at a Chick-fil-A run where Canines For Warriors is the beneficiary of it. So we're going to have an adoptable dog there. I'm actually going to run a dog for the 3 miles, so that'll be fun.
That's awesome.
That's one of our adoptable dogs that's going to run 3 miles with me.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of social media, but number one is our Adopt-A-Pet that really helps get the dogs out there and get word of mouth.
Okay.
Which it's not hard to adopt out a dog coming from Canines For Warriors because people always think they have a little more training on them.
Yeah. I would adopt from you guys. I adopt only the issue dogs, but I'm like, man, if I can get one trained, it just sounds so amazing to get a trained dog that you're like, I know he doesn't bite. I know he doesn't have so many health issues that we're going to line up surgeries. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it is kind of a fail safe, especially for families with kids. So when I work adoption events, they're like, is the dog good with kids? And I'm like, we don't know. We don't kid test. We don't tell the kid to hold its hand out, see if the dog bites. We usually just don't know, and it's trial and error, and that's kind of a scary thing to say, but that's just, the honesty of it is we don't know, Well,
in a lot of shelters, they don't have the staff to do those behavioral tests.
Right.
Thankfully, we have adoption trainers. So aside from our adoption placement team, we have adoption trainers. They're able to do a lot of different, tests and evaluations, and they're able to run through a lot of behavioral things to make sure that the dogs are given every opportunity for success. Because again, at the end of the day, we could try to adopt this dog out to you, but it might not be the right fit. So our job is to make sure that we are placing them in that forever home.
Right. All right, let's take a quick break from the podcast to talk about something I recently discovered. So I know we've all had those moments where our dog has done something frustrating, or we just love them so much that we want to talk to them. And we can't really understand them. Well, now you can. So I recently found out about this company called Regal AI, and they build AI agents for brands, and they have a built-in AI dog hotline. It's pretty good. So basically, it is 15 of the most common breeds in the United States. They each have their own phone number, and you can have a full conversation with any of these dogs. I've even tried a number of times, and the conversation changes, and it's fun. It's fun. I'm having other people do it. And so if you're interested in doing it, you can go to regal.ai/dog, scroll down, pick your dog's breed, or just whatever breed you want to talk to. Call the number, and then you can have a conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and call the Labrador, and let's see what they have to say.
Howdy. I'm your Labrador Retriever. I'm so excited to be speaking human. I can't believe it. I took a nap and then woke up, and now all of a sudden I'm speaking to you. It's so crazy. It must be crazy for you too. Anyway, can you tell me what my name is? The name that you call me?
Scout.
Oh, that's right. I love the name Stout and how it sounds when you say it. Speaking of sounds, what have you always wanted to tell me now that we can chat?
I've always wanted to tell you to leave the shoes alone and stop chewing on all the shoes.
Well, shucks. Those shoes sure smell interesting. I just get so curious, you know? Speaking of curiosity, what's the funniest thing I've ever done that made you laugh?
Probably whenever you chase your tail in circles.
Oh, I do love that tail of mine. It's like a sneaky little friend, always just out of reach. Ain't it wild that we're talking? Usually I just wag my tail and hope you understand. By the way, I noticed the fridge opened earlier. Anything exciting in there for us?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's a bummer. I was hoping for a tasty snack to share. Do you think we could go for a walk after dinner? Gotta stretch these legs and sniff the air.
Of course, we can take a walk after dinner.
Yay, a walk sounds a whole lot of fun. Can't wait to explore all the snips and maybe chase a squirrel or two. Well, I've been yapping on too long now. Time to find a good sunny spot and dream about chasing sticks. Call me back anytime and ask me any questions you want. Can't wait to chat again soon, partner.
And that was the Labrador Retriever. So as you can imagine, Regal AI builds AI agents for all kinds of businesses. If you want to learn more about what Regal AI can do for you or a friend's business, you can check them out at regal.ai. You can also try out any of the 15 dog breed hotlines for yourself for free at regal.ai/dog. And then the station dog program. And I didn't know about this until I was looking at it earlier.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Does a fire department reach out to you? You offer? How does that work?
So Greg Wells, who is the director of the Station Dog program, he started this program. He's just got a lot of ties in the community with first responders, and so he's built this program that's developed. I mean, we've placed 50 station dogs.
Oh, wow.
60 station dogs. So a lot of connections with Border Patrol, again, St. Johns County, Duval County, Las Vegas PD. So we've been able to build this, great network for what a station dog can really bring, and the positivity that it's brought has helped us even broadcast the program even more. When you see these dogs going and helping, I remember one of the first situations I was brought into was a firefighter had taken his own life, and we were able to take a station dog to the different stations that were affected, and just let the dog do its work and help these folks heal and help them, be able to cope and center kind of a lot of the pain that they were dealing with. And you really see what a dog can do.
Right.
And you know, it's not that it's something that you necessarily even need to train a dog for. It's something that's already there.
Yeah.
You know, the service dog training, yes, we're putting that into them, but the ability to be a service dog and heal, that's just something that comes out of a dog. And it's just, we're taking it to that next level, and we're really helping a lot of these first responders. Again, it's coping with their day-to-day life.
Right.
But once they submit their application, or once they kind of get everything through the approval process, obviously dealing with the cities, we have to have, you know, contracts and things in place to ensure that the dog can be with a specific handler. So there is a committed handler that takes the dog on, and they're the ones that actually take them to the different stations, and will basically have them for whatever's needed for that specific location. But once you have that commitment, then, you know, we basically will deliver, or they'll come pick up, and they are put to work.
That's it. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I had no idea you guys did that, but that's helpful. I might have some connections to think about. So let's talk about ways to support you guys. So like you said, you guys are really providing a lot for veterans and for dogs. Yep. So what are some ways that people can show support or help support?
Yep. So obviously we rely on donations. We have a lot of corporate donors. We have individual donors. We have, you know, folks that give monthly. We have folks that give during large events. We have, you know, clay shoots. We have sponsored events that we do. We have our big telethon on Veterans Day. You know, so we do a lot to get the word out there. Number one is we're trying to build awareness,
right?
But in building that awareness, we're able to share with the folks how they can basically give back. We have sponsorship opportunities. Obviously, it's not free to train a service dog,
right? So
you can sponsor the training, and you can sponsor a service dog with some little perks. You get to name the dog, but you get to sponsor a service dog, which ideally, again, ends up going to a veteran and helping save. So there's a lot of opportunities for the dog side and the training side. And then obviously we have, you know, building needs. We're constantly, right now, we're getting ready to build our hospital so that we can do on-site vet care for all of our dogs in training. So there's a lot of needs specifically to support Canines for Warriors and their mission. And then we have our wish lists for items. We have enrichment needs. You know, obviously we're trying to provide enrichment to the dogs in the kennels while they're in training. You know, so Kongs, treats, blankets, toys, you know, so there's those items. We also have a lot of opportunities for folks to volunteer their time. So we do a lot of corporate volunteer events. We do a lot of individual volunteer events. We have volunteers that help us and come do enrichment. We have volunteers that help us at events and do tabling to help spread awareness. Our volunteer program is actually, can't talk about it yet, but we're building some new opportunities for volunteers, which is going to be really beneficial to the dogs. We can't wait to roll those things out, but we are adding day-to-day ways for folks to give. If they can't give financially, here's a way to support. You know, so there is a lot. You can find a lot of opportunities on our website. If you ever want to see the behind the scenes, we'd love to give folks tours of the campus. We typically try to do it on the off week when the Warriors aren't there,
right.
But we love showcasing our facility and letting kind of folks see a day-to-day of what we do. And that helps generate that interest and helps them kind of understand what they're giving to, you know. But there are a lot of opportunities for folks to give financially, or again, in person, or even just small items that just help us do what we do on a day-to-day basis.
And as far as in-person volunteering, would that be predominantly Northeast Florida, and then you have a Texas office?
So San Antonio campus in San Antonio, Texas, we do have pretty similar volunteer opportunities. One of the big things that I didn't mention, I should look over here. So we have folks who will deliver meals for our Warriors while they're staying with us.
Oh.
So we have folks that will actually bring home-cooked meals to our veterans while they're with us. And so they're able to help our veterans, you know, just the benefit of having a home-cooked meal, which is such a huge part of what we do. And so that's, again, at both campuses, we have that opportunity. So being able to do things directly affecting and helping the veterans while they're staying with us. But yes, we do have a lot of opportunities at both campuses that are pretty similar.
Okay. And then you mentioned veteran resources, and I think your website has a handful of those. Can you discuss a little bit of like what a veteran could anticipate to find? Like, let's say they're not in the headspace to submit that application. They're not prepared to make a phone call, but just clicking a link, like what can they expect to find?
So, I think a lot of things that we've learned in the past, the issue of veteran suicide is not specific to K9s For Warriors. There's a lot of organizations that are trying to do great things and are trying to help veterans. So partnering with organizations like Wounded Warrior Program, if there's a resource that we're not able to provide, working with organizations like that, we actually have it as part of our tour for the veterans when they come to our campus, and they're with us for those 3 weeks. They actually get to go visit Wounded Warrior Program and talk to their representatives and get an idea of what resources are there. So we want to help them in whatever aspect possible. If it's not something specific from Canines For Warriors, if there's grants that we can get, if there's something that we can do to help them with their lives and their family support system, we want to be able to give them that. So there's a link to anything and almost everything that a veteran may be dealing with. It may not be directly through us, but we've branched out and we've helped find those resources to help them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I don't know if you're going to know the dates off the top of your head, but what upcoming events do you guys have? April, May?
Yeah.
Any events that come to mind?
So we have our clay shoot, which is a good fundraiser, also very fun, if you like to shoot at discs. And then we have our Salute to Moms event coming up, which, all these events, not only are they bringing awareness, not only are they helping folks heal, there's a lot of behind the scenes and stories behind the events that we do, but it's also a great way to raise, the donations that we need to continue what we do. So if you're not able to, let's say, participate in the clay shoot, you can still, support a team that would love to be able and go participate in the clay shoot. You just basically pay for the team and then someone will shoot for you.
Right.
The Salute to Moms event is actually on our campus. It's a great event supporting, the moms in our organization, just like Sherry Duval, who started it. But there's a lot of ways to support that event and also give and give donations. Our big event will be in November, which is our telethon, where we are trying to raise over $1 million to continue the great work that we're doing. And then we host adoption events almost every month, trying to get dogs adopted. Right now we have about 8 dogs that are available for adoption, and that's why we're doing 2 big events this weekend. So we always have things in the works. We always have events that come up. There's organizations that are constantly wanting to partner with us and find out how they can support us. So there may be an event that pops up last minute because it's a great opportunity, and we'll jump in and figure out ways to get out there and build awareness for Canines For Warriors.
And for people who want to find you guys, what's your website, and are you on social media?
We are on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and I believe we do have a Twitter account. So K9sforwarriors.org. It's K9swarriors.org. And everything that you possibly want to look into is on our website. But we always entertain folks, reaching out via social media or whatnot to ask questions. We love answering any questions about what we do because, again, it's just going to continue to build awareness.
Well, thank you so much for the work that you do, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Canine Culture Podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the Canine Culture Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure you're following us on social media. If you have any recommendations, any topics that you'd like to hear, if you know of any guests that would be good for the show, or if you yourself want to be a guest, please reach out to us. Send us an email at canineculturepodcast@gmail.com or send us a direct message on social media. Thank you for listening, and please share this with any of your dog-loving friends.